So we have our Siddur up, right? Good. Okay, friends, we're about to begin. If you'd like to come in, we're about to begin. And a ho, ho, ho to you too. Okay, Micah, just the candles for start. I've decided to avoid Chris's nigunim. It crosses a boundary for some people. They get a little upset, you know. Can't do that. No, people get offended. They say, I'm here not to be part of Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. But you know, that's the way people are. Well, all those songs are written by Jews anyway, so. There was a documentary on last night, not a documentary, sort of a performance kind of thing about all the Jewish composers, and people singing last night. It was very good. Very good. Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. Where did you see it? Yeah, I don't belong to that, but they got a lot of good stuff. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, Micah. New Yorker gave it a big review, yeah. Richard Brody. Are we on? Ay, 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 ay. Ay, dee, da, da, ay, da, da. Ay, da, da, ay, da, da. Ay, da, 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 ay, da, da. Ay, da, 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 dee, da, da, ay, da, da. Ay, da, dee, da, da, da. Ay, ay, da, da. Ay, da, dee, da, 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 da. Ay, da, da. Ay, da, dee, da, 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 da. Ay, da, da. Ay, da, da, ay, da, da. Ay, da, da, da. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to be, if you're able to rise, we're going to be saying the brachot for our candles. We'll go back to our candles. Holy One of blessing, your presence fills creation. Your presence fills creation. Oh, your presence fills creation. Holy One of blessing, your presence fills creation. Your presence fills creation. Oh, your presence fills creation. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Eloheinu melech haolam, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos, good Shabbos. Welcome to all of you. Whether you're here or whether you're online, there are people waving to you. I don't know if they can see you or not because the camera may not be on you, but there are people who waving. Good to see you all. So my friends, here we are, Friday night again, and we'll begin with Yedid Nefesh on page 2. And as I always mention to you, this is something was added to Kabbalat Shabbat. It's a beautiful expansion upon the four-letter name of God, which cannot be pronounced. So of course, because you can't pronounce it, people try to expand upon the name in every way they could. And this is a beautiful poem. It says at the bottom, Moshe Azikri. It's on page 2. The tune is an early Chabad tune. Chabad being the movement started by Reb Schneier Zalman of Liadi back at the beginning of the 19th century. Yedid nefesh of Harachaman mishoch avdecha el ritzonecha yarutz avdecha kemo ahayal yishtachave elemol hadorecha yerav lo yedidutecha Mino fetzuf v'chol ta'am. How splendid is your light, which worlds do reflect. My soul is one from craving for your love's delight. Please, good God, do heal her and show her your face, so my soul can see you and bathe in your grace. There she will find strength and healing in the sight. Her joy will be complete, then eternal her delight. Vatig yemuna rachamecha v'chusana al benahuvecha. Ki ze kama nichsafti לראות מהרה בתפארת עוזך אלה חמדה ליבי v'chusana ve'alti dalam. O help my lover spread your canopy of peace. Enfold all human beings, give all pain surcease. Your presence on this earth plane do make known to us, and we shall respond with song and with dance. Rush, my love, be quick, the time for love is now. Let your gentle favor grace us as of old. Adadee-dai-dai-dai, adadai-dai-dai-dai, adadai-dai-li-li-li-li-li-li, adadee-dai-dai-dai, adadai-dai-dai-dai, adadai-dai-dee-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai, adadai-dai-dai-dai, adadai-dai-dai-dai, adadai-dai-dee-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai, adadee-li-li-li, adadee-li-li-li, ha-da-da-da-dee-da-da-da, ha-da-da-dee-da, ha-da-dee-da-da-dee-da-da-dee-da, ha-da-dee-da-da-dee-da-da-da, ha-dee-da-da-da-da, ha-da-da-da-da-da, ha-da-da-da-da-da, ha-da-da-da-da-da. Page 3, Psalm 95, the beginning of the Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat, each of course representing a different part of the tree of life, as you see in the diagram on that page, but also different days of the week. And our tradition is to try to use every Psalm as a way of thinking back to the beginning of the week and doing what is called a tikkun ha-shavua. And that tikkun, that repair of that day, or tikkun of that hayom, is not easy to do, but it's essential to do. And what that means is every day you have to take the assessment of what you don't want to bring into Shabbat with you. What don't you want your Shabbat to be cluttered with? And, positive side, what small spark of enthusiasm, of love, of gratitude you do want to bring into Shabbat. That's how we repair the week, by not dragging in the past and not dragging in regret, because, my friends, we don't have time machines. We can't go back in time. So it's really sort of useless to carry regret, particularly at the Shabbat. Lechu neranena l'Adonai, nahariya letzor yeshenu, nikad mafanav b'toda b'zmirot, nariya lo. Ki el gadol Adonai, umelech gadol al kol Elohim, asher biyado mechkerei haaretz v'toafot harim lo. Everybody, hi, 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 hi. Hi, 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 Arba'im shana kul bedor, v'yomaram to'e levavhem, v'hem lo yadu drachai, asher nishbati be'api, im yevoun el menuchati. Yom Sheni, Monday. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. I sing a new song to you, and the earth sings too. I sing in my song, blesses your unsayable name. And day by day announcing the utter presence of things. Day by day evoking your glory among the nations, calling forth your miracles among all the peoples. You are each place and each thing. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tageh la'aretz. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tageh la'aretz. Yeramayam, Yeramayam, Yeramayam umelo. Yeramayam, Yeramayam, Yeramayam umelo. Yalla la 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 la. Ha la 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 la. Ha la 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 la. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tageh la'aretz. Let the heavens rejoice, let the earth dance, let the sea churn with all the life that's in it. Let the fields burst with plenty, and the trees of the forest brim with dignity, in song to you who comes with justice, who comes with the sweetness of truth. Lifnei Adonai kiva lishbot haaretz, yishbot tever betzedek, ve'yamim be'emunato. Tuesday, Yom Shlishi, on page 6. Or zaru la tzadik, udishalev simcha. What is this or, this light? Well, this is the light of creation. The light of creation is not like the light of day and night, because the sun and the moon were not created till the fourth day. So it's a different light. And it's a light which, according to the tradition, is so expansive that Adam was able to see from one end of the earth to the other. So it was an all-encompassing light, and that light had to be subdued because it was so immense that we would not be able to absorb it. No sunglasses in the world would have protected us from that light. So what happened? The light got contracted and it was put away for the tzaddikim. It's called Or Haganuz, the hidden light. And according to our tradition, when the day will come, when the Messiah will be here and life will change totally, we will be liberated from all of the narrowness that we see around us. There'll be a great gift given, light, to all of the tzaddikim. And that was sown for the tzaddikim, S-O-W-N, sown for them. And there'll be other wonderful things going on, by the way. There's going to be a big meal, big party, you could imagine. Party, party, party. And Moshe Rabbeinu is going to teach us Torah, and David HaMelech is going to play for us, and Miriam HaNeviah will dance for us, and we'll eat from Leviathan, the great sea creature, and we'll eat from the Shor Habar, the great wild ox. The great wild ox. We have fish and fleshix. It's going to be unbelievable. I don't know if they have vegan or not. We'll arrange that. But the bottom line is that the images of this light that is now all of a sudden going to illuminate the world again is what we mean when we say the messianic future. And if you look around you, as we do every day, we're constantly accosted by darkness. Darkness. The darkness of not being able to see the other. That's basically the ultimate pain of this dark time. And we are, of course, in the darkest time of the year. We just had the winter solstice a few days ago. So that's what is the light that we say, that we're talking about here on page 6, at the bottom of the Hebrew on page 6. Or zaru ala tzadik, ole yishrele simcha. Or zaru ala tzadik, ole yishrele simcha. Simchu tzadikim baya, vehodu lezech kodsho. Simchu tzadikim baya, vehodu lezech kodsho. Wednesday. Yom Revi'i, the fourth day, page 8, Psalm 98. This is a beautiful psalm. They all are, but this is particularly a beautiful one. I love the part that says, Yah. Yah, by the way, is the breath name of the Yud He Vav He name, which cannot be pronounced. We make it a breath name. Hallelujah. Yah. Right? Not like we invented Yah just today. Hallelujah. Anachnu nevarech Yah. Right? Yah. So sing unto Yah a new song, for Yah has performed marvelous things. God's right hand and holy arm has been the source of God's own salvation. Yah's help and righteousness has made known and has been revealed to all the goyim, the nations. It didn't have a very negative connotation until not too long ago, but it meant the nations. Yah has remembered the mercy and faithfulness bestowed on the house of Israel, and all the ends of the earth have seen the salvation of our God. Lift your voices to Yah, all the earth. Break forth and sing for joy and offer up praises. Sing praises to Yah and with the aid of the harp, with the harp and the melodious voice, with trumpets and sound of the horn. Shout before the sovereign Yah. Let the sea roar and that it contains, the world and that they dwell in it. Let the rivers clap their hands and let the mountains sing for joy before Yah. For Yah comes to judge the earth. God will judge the earth with righteousness and the peoples with equity. Zamru l'Adonai b'chinor, b'chinor v'kol zimera, b'chatzrot v'kol shofar, hariyu l'fnei HaMelech Yah, yihiram hayam u'melot v'yoshveva, neharot yimchachu chaf yachad, harim yiraneinu, l'fnei Adonai kiva lishbot haaretz, yishbot v'betzedek, v'yamim b'meisharim. You know, in this great struggle we all are facing, I hope it's not too late, in so-called curbing climate change. Right? This is, of course, everybody I know who talked about this in the 60s know that we did nothing for 50 years. Now, everything that we predicted is starting to happen, if not already happening. And what I like about this psalm that we just read was it just has that we have to listen closely to the earth. You know, one of the great Hasidic teachings of Reb Nachman of Bratslav is that every blade of grass has its own song. And no blade of grass is identical to the next blade of grass. And this idea that you have to have your own song, and that you can derive that melody, if you will, by being attentive to the earth, attentive to all that's there. And again, I don't think we have that capacity as much as we did. We have a lot of noise now. I must say, I'm all for helping to stop climate change. Don't get me wrong. But there's so much noise. And I often feel why there's not more inner work being done of us attuning. I love this word, attunement. To attune ourselves to the rhythm of the universe. And I know it's hard for people to attune themselves to even be with another person. I understand, it's very hard. But this is something that the earth can help us in its struggle. Right? This is, Reb Zalman Olav Shalom, Reb Zalman, our great teacher, whose name you'll be hearing, God willing, for many generations even after me, said that we have this problem, that we don't see the, as he called it, the organismic connection of all things. We're still stuck in this idea of me and you and us and them and there and now and here and we don't see the whole thing. That's why he said one of the greatest moments was when people saw the earth from space. Great moment. And everybody who saw it, you talk to many of these astronauts, their lives changed. Their hearts opened in love for this planet. And they said, we saw no fences. We saw no border guards. We didn't see any of that. All we saw was this beautiful, beautiful little gem in the universe with clouds, and we saw seas, and we saw land.
And they became attuned in a new way, in a new way. And we have to work towards that. Because there's a lot of clamor. I understand clamor, and I think it's important, and we have to demonstrate and all that stuff. But it's clamor. It's not letting us develop that very deep intimacy with the earth. That's what we need. We have to see, as we Psalms tell us, we have to hear their song. So I hope, as you go out into the world tonight, tomorrow, unless you're quarantined in a week, or whatever it is, I hope you're not, but just listen. Listen. You know, snow has a sound. Ice has a sound. I was reading about people who are now watching, unfortunately, glaciers melt and begin to crack. It has a sound. Awesome sound. It's an alarm sound. But it's there. It's all there. And one of the ways is by becoming attuned to it if we can. And one of the ways we do that, if you look at Psalm 99 on page 9, which is fourth Thursday, Yom Chamishi, the fifth day, we talk about Romemu, interesting term. Raise Yah, who guides us. Very important teaching. Eloheinu doesn't mean our God. If there's anything I can get through with my stay here at TBZ, is to get people to understand that Yah is existence, it's a breath, it's being alive. And every time you breathe, you're blessing Yah. That's how you bless God. Be alive. Be truly alive, not just conscious. Be alive. And then God becomes a verb who guides us, dynamic, ever-changing as we are ever-changing. And we'll read in this parsha, I'll talk about it a little more, that we have how we got this idea that God is basically, if you will, dynamic. So we talk about raising Yah, who guides us, and worship at Yah's holy hill. For Yah, who guides us, is unique and holy. Now, what's Yah's holy hill? Sure, a mountain in Jerusalem, perhaps. Matter of fact, Jerusalem is never mentioned in the Torah, not even once. It's Makom Asher Ani Bocher. It's a place that I will choose. So what is our holy hill? That's the question I want to ask all of you. Ponder upon it. What elevates you? What gives you a different vantage point? That's what the holy hill is. What elevates, what's beguiling enough, if you will, that it wants me to climb the hill? What's up there? What will a new perspective give me that it's worth going up that hill? You can't stay on the hill, by the way. You can't stay there. Come down. And that's the oscillation, as I often tell you, the oscillation of life. Up and down, up and down, up and down. So Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Vehishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Vehishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. O ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Psalm 29, page 10. Yom Shishi, Erev Shabbat Kodesh, the sixth day, the eve of the Holy Shabbat. Glory and strength are not yours. They belong to another, to the unsayable name. Offer what you have to that holiness. Ascribe all your works. You sat unmoving in the flood time. Your sitting is sovereign and constant. And you reflect the strength in our inmost hearts so that we may be blessed with peace. Adonai lemabul yashav, vayeshev Adonai melech liolam.
Adonai os liamo yiten. Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Lecha Dodi, this great, wonderful poem, prepares us to receive Shabbat. And of course, I love this particular translation because I think it's very accurate. It says, Lecha Dodi, come my beloved, come my friend. Likrat Shabbat, to greet Shabbat, the bride. To greet the bride. And what are we going to say? Penei Shabbat nekabla. To welcome the many faces of Shabbat. Very important. All of us are at a spectrum of our connection to Shabbat. Some of us are perhaps more, if you will, circumscribed in our activities on Shabbat. I know I try to refrain from shopping. I try to refrain from mundane things. Because we have Sunday. You know, we're lucky. We have a second day to do all that stuff. And there are other people who have their own relationship. And Shabbat has many faces. And I must say, over the years, and I've got a lot of years, I've been to many, many homes where Shabbat is observed, and it's all observed in their own way. And they're all beautiful. They're all beautiful. I often have said, you may have heard me before, saying if we can only have a consciousness of Shabbat, Zachor et Shabbat, we're going to read that in the first paragraph. Shamor v'zachor dibur echad. Shamor v'zachor. Shamor is guard the Shabbat, meaning observe it. And Zachor is have a Shabbat consciousness. Halavai, halavai, halavai. It should only be that Jews would know it's Shabbat and I'm transgressing it. Wow! Wow! What an elevation of consciousness. I know it's Shabbos. I can't observe it this week, but you know Shabbos comes every week. It comes every week. You might not do it this week, but there's always next week. So that's what I want to get across, is that we have to marry consciousness and action. And that's the challenge. And some people have action and don't have real consciousness. I've seen that in many very observant homes, right? A lot of observance, but very little consciousness. And I've seen it the other way. A lot of consciousness, perhaps less observant in a way. But let me give you one little thing. I'm here tonight by myself. I don't have to share. It's really great. So what does observant mean? Well, being a meditator, I hope you'll join us for in our meditation community, and we'll have a meditation service here, one Shabbat as well. Observant means that you look at what is. To be an observant Jew doesn't mean you have to be orthoprax, doing things in a certain way, rather than orthodox. Orthodox, not the word. Most people I know are orthoprax. They practice in a certain way. But when you look at the world the way it really is, in reality, the way it is, you sit silently. As I said earlier, just listen to the tune of the universe. When you look out there, guess what you're going to say after a while? Boy, do we need Shabbos. And that need for Shabbos will not come because it's written in a book that came down from Sinai, or stone, written in stone. It's because it's written on your heart. Your heart's going to say, hey, boy, do I need Shabbos. I could use Shabbos maybe 3 times a week, but at least once a week. 25 hours. Imagine 20. And the joke I always tell is when we were in India speaking to the Dalai Lama many years ago, and we talked about the things that kept Judaism alive during exile. We, of course, mentioned Shabbat. And he said, Shabbat, I know a lot of Jews, but I don't know any Jews who know about Shabbat. And we explained that Shabbat was 25 hours, family, friends, food, all the stuff that makes Shabbat delicious, a nap in the afternoon, on a long Shabbos, a Shabbat zir, a walk, whatever. And he said, wow, that is utterly amazing. 25 hours a week you devote to this? And we say, yeah. So we left that meeting very happy. We said, well, we convinced him. How can we convince the Jews? That was the joke. Because when you look at it, it is the most ideal kind of way of freeing yourself up from being a consumer demographic, from being someone who's just going to add another few dollars
into the kitty at Walmart, even though very few are Walmart shoppers, but still. L'chadodi brings that idea of the many faces of Shabbat into ourselves. It brings that indwelling presence into ourselves. It's a song of love. It's a song of yearning. And there's so many tunes. So let's try this one tonight. L'chadodi likrat kala pidei Shabbat nekabela Shamo v'zochor b'diborecha hishbi'anu el miyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad v'shemo l'tiferet ve'letila lecha dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nekabela lekrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נשוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת קהלה פני שבת נקבלה מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה קומי צאי מתוך ההפיכה הרב לך שבט וימי קבחה והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה לך דודי לקראת קהלה פני שבת נקבלה Shake off the dust, my people, arise, robe yourself with light and joy. The future within is revealed now. The freedom to be enters my soul. Lecha dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Awake, awake, my love, awake, your light has come. Arise, be light, rise now, rise. Sing your new song. The splendor of God is open through you. Lecha dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nekabela. No more guilt and no more shame. Why be helpless? Why be weak? All my afflicted find shelter in you. Holy city rebuilt on her hill. Lecha dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nekabela. V'hayu lemshiso shosayich v'rochaku kol mivalayich yasis alayich Elohayich kimsos lev lev be'ahava lecha dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Yamin u'smol tifrotzi ve'et Adonai taritzi al yad ish behem parzi ve'nismecha ve'nagila. Micah, we're going to go outside, yes? I ride, I read, I lie, lie, lead, I ride, I ride, I read, I I ride, I lie, lie, lead, lie, I ride, I ride, read, I ride, I ride, I read, I read, I ride, I read, I lie, lie, lead, I ride, I ride, I ride, I lie, lie, lead, I ride, I lie, lie, lead, I ride, I read, I'm the read, I ride, I ride, I lie, 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 I ride, I lie, Boe, I ride, I Lecha dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Boi b'shalom ateret ba'alam b'simcha ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, רי 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 רי
hi rai 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 rai, hi rai 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 rai. Hi, rai, 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 li, rai, 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 hi, 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 rai, rai, li, rai, 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 hi, 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 rai, rai, ri, rai, hum, da, ri, rai, rai, hi, rai, ri, rai, rai, lecha doti, lekrat kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Take a deep breath, my friends. We've gone through the week, but now we come to Shabbat. And on page 15, Psalm 92 is actually the official, if you will, starting of Shabbat. You may know that Lechat Edid and all of the Kabbalat Shabbat came very late in our tradition. For us, something in the 16th century is considered contemporary. Okay? Because we have psalms that we're singing that are literally 2,500 years old. So a 16th century innovation, all right, we'll see if it works. So far it has worked very, very, very well. But it's an innovation. Remember, we innovate by adding, not by taking away. We innovate by taking in what we feel we need for our souls. We innovate not by taking apart the liturgical Siddur, but by adding our neshama to it. Right? By songs and tunes. We do that very well here, by the way. We don't have to throw away the Siddur. We have to just make the Siddur alive again. Alive again. Because ultimately, when you put stuff in print and you put it in the book, it sort of dies sometimes. Right? The fancy word is inscripturalization. When you put something in a book and it's got a binding on it, my siddur is nicer than your siddur. My siddur is right, your siddur is wrong. But for years, we didn't have Siddurim. We had the oral tradition, and we passed it on. How? By singing songs and using the tunes as a way, as a mnemonic, and the tunes work. You know, tunes work. The words get passed down, and the tunes change from every generation to every generation. So, Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat, page 15. Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat. Tov lehodot laya ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור, כי שימחתני יא בפניך במעשה ידיך ארנן. מה גדלו מעשיך היה, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך, איש בר לא ידע וכסיל לא יבין את זאת. איי ריי ריי Harari rai rai rai, harari rai 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 rai, rai rai, harari rai rai rai, harari rai 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 rai. The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. They shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Yah, they shall flourish in the courts of our God, and they will bring forth fruit in old age. They will be juicy and rich with sap. To declare that Yah is upright, my rock, in whom there is no falsehood or wickedness. Sadik katamar yifrach ke'erez balvanot יזכה שתולים בבית יה, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו, עוד ינובון בשיבה, דשנים ורעננים יהיו, להגיד כי ישר יה,
Tzuri lo avlata bo. Psalm 92 always walks with a companion, a sister psalm, Psalm 93. The middle of the page. Rabim, Adirim Mishbereyam, Adirim Mishbereyam, Adibam Avarom, Haya, Adibam Arom Adonai, Edotecha, Nehemenu Meod, Leveitcha Nava Kodesh, Adonai, Liorech Yamim, Adonai, Liorech Yamim. Those among us who are in mourning or have a yard site, the mourner's Kaddish is found on page 17. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba v'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol bet Yisrael v'agala v'zman kari v'yimru Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach leolam u'me'ol maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpo'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekutsha brechu leila min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran bi'alma v'yimru. Amen. Yehi shlom barabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimru. Amen. Page 18, a beautiful vision of Shabbat from the Zohar. And this was written, the Zohar, at the end, probably written at the end of the 13th century, the 1290s, and it didn't have Kabbalat Shabbat. So they looked at the Mariv service, the evening service we'll be doing now, as the tool for the release of two major things you have to release yourself from in order to allow Shabbat into you. And one is anger, and one is judgment. Okay? And they go together quite often, anger and judgment. So in this beautiful passage, we get the idea that on Shabbat, we have an additional soul, right? My constant excuse for a second helping of dessert, right? Not for one soul, I got to feed the other soul too. But that's just my interpretation of it. But the extra soul is broadening of perspective. That's what it means. You get an extra breath. And that's, by the way, one of the ways that we avoid anger and judgment, as you know, is take a breath. An extended breath can help you sort of avoid. So it goes like this. A vision of Shabbat, an insight, the profound meaning of being at one. Through the service of Kabbalat Shabbat, the throne of glory is prepared for the Holy One. With the arrival of Shabbat, the Shekhinah is liberated from all forces of evil and harsh judgment, leaving her free for intimate union with a holy light, adorned with many crowns by the Holy One. All kingdoms of anger, all dominions of judgment, flee from her presence. No alien power reigns in all the universe. No alien power reigns in all the worlds. She is bathed in light from on high, while receiving a crown of Shabbat prayers from her earth. From us, the holy people, all of us are adorned with fresh additional souls, which are ours on Shabbat. And then we begin Shabbat prayers, happily blessing her, joy and gladness on our faces, released from thoughts of severity and judgment, uttering Baruch Hu, praise Yah, as Shabbat blessings and peace begin to flow. I invite you all for our evening worship with the Baruch Hu, the invitation on page 19. Take that deep breath, expansion of breath. And let your kavanah be for our service tonight, this capacity to perhaps, and it's not easy, avoiding judgment and anger. Baruchu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed. You may be seated. The blessing of light, one of the two blessings preceding the Shema, the blessing of life and the second blessing of love. Baruch atah Adonai melech olam, asher b'dvaro mariv aravim, b'chokhmah potech sharim, b'tvuna meshaneh itim, u'machalif nezmanim, u'mesader et hakochavim b'mishmeroteihem, v'rakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla. Kol od mifnei choshech v'choshech mifnei or, u'ma'avir yom u'mehevi layla, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה היה המריב הרבים. We don't usually get a chance to read our commentaries, but let's look at the bottom of page 20. A commentary on Ahavat Olam, everlasting love. Revelation of the Torah was not only a revealing of content, but a revealing of the divine model of revelation of the self. The power of Sinai was its establishment of an intimate covenantal partnership between God and Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel. God's quote-unquote coming down on the mountain makes Sinai a place of meeting. And this encounter with the divine is often portrayed as deeply romantic. Just as intimate relationships are nurtured by one's partners revealing to the other, so too our uncovering the mysteries of Torah through our interpretations brings us into intimate relationship with our divine partner. The unfolding loving voice of Sinai still reverberates within us. The transmission of Sinai still resounds in our hearts and minds if we are prepared to receive it. So too in relationships of love and understanding, we must be prepared to open our hearts and minds to receive the other. V'avatcha tasir mimenu l'olamim, baruch ata haya, ohev amo Yisrael. The Shema is often seen as that sentence used under this, if you will, metaphorical canopy, where the covenant was created, the marriage, if you will, was created. Page 21. Shema Yisrael Havaya Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hashem kevod nachuto v'vued. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'b'chol miodecha v'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך ובביתך ולכתך בדרך שוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Middle of page 24, please read with me. Interpretation of the second paragraph of the Shema. Page 24. If I carefully follow the way I have been shown, the way of justice, mercy, and humility, serving life with the fullness of my life, Then the earth will flourish with righteousness and riches. Pure rain will fall in its season. The earth will bring forth her bounty, my labors will flourish, and the fragrance of life will scent the air like fine oil. There'll be food enough for all, and all be able to partake of it. No one will exploit another, for no other shall be separate from the one. But beware. If I follow another path, pursuing gods of narrow desire who separate one from another in quest of power and control, then the heavens will rain poison. Creation will fall ill, and I and all will soon disappear from this good earth. Therefore I impress these words upon my heart to quell anger. I bind them in my hands to stop violence. I set them before my eyes to see the one who is all. By word and by deed I teach them. I repeat them at home and away, morning and night. I write them upon the doorpost of my home and upon my gate, that my dwelling be a haven from ignorance and delusion. Then my days and the days of my people will endure forever, one generation passing righteousness and kindness to the next, all the days of the earth. Adonai Elohechem Emet. And the blessing that succeeds, goes after the Shema, is one of redemption. Now there are two kinds of redemption. There's personal redemption, and there's global redemption. We all hope as Jews, we have a craziness, we actually believe the world can change, there'll be a change in the world. And it's a very steadfast hope, because we've been doing it for a while. And there's also personal redemption. And that's for me, that's the more important one, to be honest. Because this capacity in our tradition to say everyone can redeem themselves, or as somebody would say, you mean you can't get canceled? You really can't in Judaism. Judaism, wherever you've been, wherever you've done, you can redeem yourself. You can come back. You can come back. You can come back. And all of us, every year, come back. Because there isn't anybody who's gone through the year without a need to redeem themselves in one way or the other. So we offer redemption. And once you've gotten the light and the love and the sense of the all, echadness, right? Echadness, then you're ready for the next step, which is basically to sing the song of redemption, the song sung by Moshe and Miriam after they went through the splitting of the sea. The middle of page 25. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, nora tehilot osef ele. Malchutecha rubanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe, ze li anu v'yamru, haya yimloch li'olam va'ed, v'nemar, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגולו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה היה גואל ישראל. Page 26. You know, this is a paragraph that, I've said so many times, of course, over the years. And unfortunately, we're living in times when it seems even more visceral, the things that we look for protection from, which all of us need to be protected from. I think we all have to be vaccinated from certain delusions. And I don't know if they offer a booster shot for that, but that's really the crisis we're in, delusion. So we say together, cause us, eternal our God, to lie down for well-being, and help us arise, our ruler, to life, and spread over us the shelter of your well-being, and fix in us good counsel in your presence. Save us for the sake of your name, and shield us. Keep us from enmity and illness and strife and hunger and fear, and keep oppressors from confronting or pursuing us. Let us be covered by the shadow of your wings, for you are our protector and helper. Mercy and compassion is your rule. And guard our going out and our coming in for life and for well-being from this time forth and forever. And spread over us the shelter of your well-being. Praised are you, Adonai, who spreads over us the shelter of your well-being, and over the people Israel, and over Yerushalayim, and over the world. Ufros aleinu sukat shelomecha, Baruch atah haporei sukkah shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim, v'al kol ha'olam. We rise for the declaration of Shabbat, v'shamru et b'nei Yisrael Shabbat. There's a very famous line by this great cultural Zionist, Achad Ha'am, who had a very good pen name, one of the people. His name was Ginsburg, but he had a good pen name. And he said, as much as the Jews have been saved by the Shabbos, so has the Shabbos saved the Jews. And that's a very interesting way of seeing it, that it's reciprocal, Shabbat and us, back and forth. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. בני ובין בני ישראל עוד היא לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי Shabbat vayinafash. We'll transition to the silent Amidah, which begins on page 29 and continues through page 39. You can read it in Hebrew, which is wonderful if you can. You could also read the comments in English. You can read the English translation, and you don't have to read it all. And if you don't want to read anything at all, ochet good. Say the ochet good. Sit in silence, stand in silence, and become attuned to what's going on around you. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, וילמד ברכותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בהגלה והגלה, ובזמן קהרי ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם יעולמי עולמיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפועה ויתרומה ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה ברכו לעילה בכל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן ויעלמה, ויאמרו אמן. אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. ברוך אתה. וזוכר חסדי ועוצמך. ברוך אתה.
יהיו לרצון אמרי פי וגיון ליבי לפניך צורי וגואלי עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ויאמרו amen. We'll be concluding our service in a little while with acknowledgement of those who need healing, and of course we'll also be saying Kaddish for those who have the yard side. But just a few words, so we have a little bit of time, about our parsha this week. This week we begin the second book of the Torah, Sefer Shemot, which is called Exodus, and it's such a contradistinction to what we've just read in Genesis, where we had 13 parshiot, 13 chapters devoted to the Joseph story with great detail, great detail. The first parsha of Shabbat goes from the going down to Egypt till the first appearance of Moses in the court of Pharaoh. A lot of action going on. You get the threat that supposedly is being posed by the Hebrews, which leads Pharaoh to ask the midwives to kill the boys and let the girls live. We have the saving of Moses, if you know, by the daughter of Pharaoh, watched by his sister Miriam, and later nursed by his birth mother Yocheved. And then we have from there his growing up in the palace, his seeing an Egyptian taskmaster beating a Hebrew, killing him, hearing two Hebrews sort of hint that people know about this and he better get out of town. Gets out of town, goes to a well in Midian, meets his wife at the well, very common theme that we had already in the book of Bereshit, becomes the son-in-law of a priest of Midian, Jethro, serves him for 40 years in the flocks, and then has an event which is described as the first encounter with God, which is the burning bush event. And then he has the conversation of the burning bush itself is just fantastic. It is fantastic to hear the give and take. It's really just a fantastic way of I don't know, as I was saying to the Torah study class this week, I am so enamored more and more and more by the literary genius of all this. This all, I imagine always a Greek, what do you call it, an odia, whatever, big stage, and this is being played on this stage, and the dialogue is fantastic. It's not this and this dialogue. It's interesting. It comes like this: Moses raising his questions, God trying to answer them, Moses continuing to raise questions, God trying to answer them, and then, of course, we're going back into Egypt with his brother Aaron and approaching Pharaoh and saying, I only want the people to go for 3 days. We have a festival at the mountain. Which mountain? The mountain near where he had the burning bush. The mountain which already had been a holy mountain for centuries that his father-in-law told him about, called Chorev. We call it Mount Sinai, but it's not really Mount Sinai. It's Chorev, which is in the wilderness of Sinai, but it's not the name of the mountain itself. A lot of stuff going on. At the end of the parsha, it ends with great disappointment on Moses' part that he doesn't get the answer he needs from Pharaoh. And of course, the next weeks will have the story of the Exodus and the plagues and all that. So what I found fascinating, of course, is all of it. Of course, first of all, pay attention. The beginning of the Exodus story is women. Women, the two maidens, the two midwives. And you can read them as the Hebrew midwives or the midwives to the Hebrews. They stand up to Pharaoh. They say, and they give some lame excuse, which ties into their thinking about Jews. They're like chayas. They're chayas, they're animals. They don't act the way, you have to demonize people in order to be able to destroy them. We're familiar with that. In the beginning, they say, oh, they're spreading like vermin. Ever hear that expression used in a way to demean and to dehumanize?
And why do they do what they do? It says because they fear Elohim. They are God-fearers. And in the hands of God-fearers, you are always safe, because a God-fearer, the sign for me that you're a God-fearer is you will not kill someone. And how many people in the name of God are killing people? It's called the Chilul Hashem, a desecration of the name. So the second, of course, is Yocheved, his mother. Because the Midrash tells us when her husband Amram, by the way, there's no mention of their names in this, very, very fascinating. They're non-anonymous. A man brings a woman and gets pregnant. Very fascinating. No mention of names. Later, the Midrash fills us in. In order to prevent any tragedy in their household, the father, Amram, asks all the men, divorce your wives. Don't sleep with them. Don't have kids. That's the best way to deal with this. It'll pass over. Let's not have kids anymore. And Miriam, the eldest sister, who, of course, figures prominently as a prophet, says to her father, Dad, this isn't fair. I understand, you're afraid the boy children will be destroyed, but you're also destroying all the female offspring you're going to have. You shouldn't do that. And, of course, he brings all the men back to their wives. And Miriam serves a very important purpose. She is the one who thinks that putting the little baby in the basket, teva, by the way, the same word is used for the ark of Noah, teva. And why does she know this is going to be possible? Because she has spied out the routines of the maidens of Bitya. Now, we don't know her name either, but the Talmud tells us Bitya, she's daughter of God. She's seen that this woman goes down every day at a certain time to bathe, so she knows when to put the baby into the basket. She's thought out, well thought out. And Miriam then, of course, sees what happens, and she immediately approaches it. Another example of an everyday person, if you will, a lay person, approaching someone of authority. Takes chutzpah. And if anything, Miriam had a chutzpah. There's no question about it. And not only does she have chutzpah, he says, oh, I see you have this beautiful baby. I know a woman who is a wonderful nursemaid. Of course, the baby's 3 months old. It's been nursed by his mother. Let's return her to this nursemaid. Of course, the irony is that she gets an extra couple of years with her son. By the way, she does not call him Moshe. No one knows what she called him. So the Midrash gives us 7 names that he's called by different people. His mother called him Yekutiel. His father called him Cheber, whatever it is. We don't get any of those details. And the ambiguity of that, by the way, the ambiguity of the text is phenomenal. It just invites interpretation. It just invites the need to go beyond and between the lines. So Miriam figures very prominently. Yocheved, the mother, probably, the daughter of Pharaoh, the 2 midwives. And it is only by their efforts, it seems, that they get that major ball rolling towards a new kind of, if you will, hope for the Israelites in Egypt. And by the way, they were not plantation slaves, they were wage slaves. They were in servitude, they were serfs. And that, of course, ironically, was created by who? Joseph. So you deal with this irony. Joseph creates the system, and his own people get trapped in that system because a new Pharaoh arises, as it says in the text, who didn't know Joseph. That's a very interesting phrase we still use to this day. A new power has arisen who didn't know Joseph. So this parsha, as I say, gives us so much opportunity, and we know it so well because we read it in the Haggadah. But it's interesting, we don't read the Torah in the Haggadah. There's new Haggadot. There were kibbutz Haggadot who said, no, let's just read the text of the Tanakh, of the Torah. Well, we don't do that because the Haggadah on Pesach is an attempt to expand upon the rabbinic ability to create midrash, to not be bound only by the text, but to have the capacity for using your imagination. It's very important. So you notice the parts that everybody skips. There's a whole section, by the way, teaching you how to interpret words, right? And how to understand what the plagues were, et cetera, et cetera. So this story is well known to us. But as you will read, if you read this carefully, this parsha this week, and we'll be reading, I'm not sure if we're reading the third or the middle, but get the ball rolling. A new consciousness has to emerge that things don't have to be this way. Because when you're in a system of feudalism, a feudal system, you have your place in the system. And you pay the right people, and they leave you alone. But this new, if you will, regime has another goal in mind, and that is expansiveness. And the only way to do that is by enslaving rather than only servitude. They've got to now build this new, if you will, structure of this new regime, the cities of Pitom and Ramses, etc. Does not mention, by the way, that the Jews built the pyramids. That's not part of the story. So, and it says that they finally cry out, and God hears their cry. When they were in this stable system, caste system, by the way, it's a caste system, right? They managed. You managed. You put food on the table, you know, and you were glad you weren't being put into a prison. Okay. But they cried out, and when the cry went out, it became obvious that this was the moment. This was a birthing time. Okay, this is a birthing time. If you understand these stories in another way, these are stories about pangs and birthing and pain. Eventually, even putting the blood around the doorpost of the house 2 chapters from now, 2 parshiot from now, is about creating, if you will, a birth canal. And the splitting of the sea, again, a birth canal. So it's a story constantly of birthing, of rebirthing and birthing and birthing. That's what makes the story so vital. That's why it's also in the springtime. It's, you know, it's all tied up in the springtime, time of birthing, etc. So I'm very glad we got it to Shemot. I love Bereshit. Bereshit was phenomenal. You learned how exactly not to run your families. Everything. It was a handbook for how not to parent. And but Exodus, of course, is his own wonderful narrative. So just wanted to fill you in on where we are, because for Jews, knowing what Parsha was going on what week, that was the way they understood dates. So when you wrote a letter to somebody, you said, Shlomo, Yom Shlishi leParshat Shmot. And immediately he knew, because every community was reading. He knew exactly when it was. And that's how they understood dates, was when the Parsha that was being read. So I wish us all to get to a place when we read the Torah, that we understand that there is room in this reading to put ourselves in. It's not a relic. It doesn't. It's, you know, it's not demanding of us to be quiet. It's demanding of us to be agitated. Demanding of us it challenges us. It challenges us by the stuff that we say, how could that be? You know, even a simple question like that. How do they know that? It's the how and the why and the when, the questions. And that's why Passover is an ultimately example of the fact that we surround the story by questions, So I wish all of us a Shabbat Shalom. If there's someone you are interested in mentioning who needs healing, or yourself, put it in the chat, and maybe some people here as well, the congregation will give us the names. And we will offer our thoughts, and more than our thoughts, we'll offer, if you will, this capacity that we have for empathy. More than thoughts, empathy. You know, to be empathic. And unfortunately, so unfortunate for us that we've had this rise in this of hospitalizations, of infections, and it's very depressing. And yet I'm sort of, I don't know, I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but I feel it came fast and it might leave fast. Right? From my mouth right to God's ear. That maybe it's a very passing thing, and maybe we'll build up more immunity. People, Chveisnish, I don't know. But that's my sometime optimistic observations. Not always the case. But I'm hoping as quickly as it came, that quickly it will go away. But meanwhile, we have to be very careful. And I took my test before I came here. If you're going somewhere, please take a test before, and please take a test after. Right? So, especially if you're going to be in an enclosed area because it's cold out. So please be careful out there. So are there any names we'd like to mention? Micah, anything come up? Thank you. Thank you. Anyone here? Phyllis Mandel, anyone else?
Helena refana la, Helena refana la, Helena refana la, refua shelema.
Let's hope that everyone will recover, come back to the full strength of body and of spirit. We rise for Aleinu, which is page 44.
Aleinu לשבח לדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו מגויי ארצות, אלא שמנו משפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו עמהם, וגורל עלינו עם כל העולם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. For the sovereignty is yours, and you will reign eternally in honor. As it is written in your Torah, the eternal will reign forever and ever. And as is said by the prophet Zechariah, the eternal will be ruler over all the earth, and on that day the eternal will be one, and God's name will be one. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. This coming week we commemorate Yortzites. And please put names on the chat if we don't mention them here. You know, it's getting tougher to read the Yortzites. I'll tell you why. It used to be when I first came here, I was saying Yortzites for people who I didn't know because they were the parents, if you will, of people who were in the congregation or left the congregation. So there were all those names right up on the wall. So it was, every week there were more Yortzites. And now, unfortunately, I've been here for so long, I'm getting to know the names of the people that I do personally. So it's always very touching, very touching. So this week we'll commemorate the Yortzeit of Sarah Altman, Eli Astroff, Sarah Citron, Eugene DeCero, Diana Engel, Ann Fasten, Bernard Maurice Fisher, George Fox, Darylyn Gerhardt, Esther Goldstein, Ellen Kagan, Sima Kempner, Madeline Liebschutz, Ida Magense, Avraham Magense, Ora Nuria Matalon, Mina Morley, Max Newman, Sheldon Oz, Alec Pinar, Marjorie Diana Pomerantz, my mother-in-law, a very dear, sweet woman. This is her first Yortzeit. Meyer Richler, Carl Rosenberg, Betty Miller, Morton Smith, Simon, Lillian Smith, Charles Spiegel, Annabelle Stickgold, and Victor Wagner. Any other names?
Joan Goldberg and Milton Whites.
The Mourner's Kaddish on page 48. Please rise if you're saying Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, bi'alma divra chilutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol bet Yisrael, ba'gala v'zman kari v'yimru. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach, Leolam Ol Me'olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpo'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei Dekutsha Brichu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata damiran v'yalma v'yimru. Amen. Yehi Shlom Rabba bin Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimru. Amen. You may be seated, or you can remain standing as we make Kiddush. If you want to follow the Kiddush, it's on page 49. Savrei Chaverai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu mecholam, borei beri agafed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, asher kiddusha mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'yahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit, ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh, zecher leyetziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'charta, Yotanu kidashta kol oamim, v'shabbat kodshecha, v'yahava uverotzon, hinchaltanu, baruch atah Adonai, v'kadesh haShabbat. L'chaim. So, let's conclude with an upbeat song with Shalom Aleichem on page, I'd like to follow, it's on page 50, top of the page. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni L'Shalom, Malchei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitchem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Before we go, I want to have Diane O'Donoghue, who's been a board member for many years, to give, as she said to me, the last time she's going to give announcements. And I differed, and I said, there may be other opportunities. You never know. So please, thank you very much for giving us announcements all these years.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
The reason that I said that was that the last time I stood here, I said, this would be the last time I would be giving announcements as a board member. Now, it is true, the board has changed, and now I am off the board. But I was here this evening to say Kaddish for my father-in-law, and so I wanted to do the announcements since I felt, of course, that just sort of goes with it. Thank you so much, Reb Moshe, for this service this evening, and as always, consult happenings for the various things that are going on this week. The announcements are there, as well as the opportunities. Also note that the TBZ office closed starting today, the 24th, and it will open up again on January the 3rd. However, tomorrow morning, Shabbat morning, 9 a.m., Torah study here in person, 10 o'clock, Shabbat morning service is hybrid, in person as well as live streamed. We still have a number of things going on, as always, during the week. Sunday, 9:30 to 11, we have the Hebrew Torah study with Rabbi Sam Sekel on Zoom. Boker Tov continues, but please note that all Boker Tov meetings this week will be lay-led. There'll be no Boker Tov on Thursday. So the community-led Boker Tov, TBZ, 8 to 8:45, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. Wednesday on Zoom, 7:30, weekly Torah study with Reb Moshe. Programming feedback survey. You will be getting in the mail soon a booklet with the remarkable abundance of programming for winter and spring. It's also very helpful now to step back and take a look at where we are and where we would like to be in terms of programming. So please consult happenings or a recent email with a survey with your feedback. There's great interest in having your candid thoughts in order to help align the offerings of TBZ with your needs. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much, Diane. And I tell you did this so well, it's going to be hard for people to take over, I have a feeling. Very hard. So I wish you all Shabbat Shalom at home, those who are here, and I'll see you tomorrow, God willing, 9 a.m. for those brave folks, and we'll be starting our service at 10. Kol Tuv, Shabbat Shalom, Good Shabbos.